So what happened? It just wouldn't, because I've got some coming up that I know some people, it just didn't connect. Is that what happened?
I don't know. It just
Just
black screen
wouldn't.
just kept spinning, and I was like,
Really?
I'm not going to wait around for it to figure itself
I
out.
am not going to argue with my laptop.
Exactly. At least I know the phone. The phone is usually a better option. So, yeah.
I mean, I always find the phone, I like it because, I don't know, if you've got a little stand and a thing and I don't know, it just sort of...
I have a system now that I figured out that if I stack a certain number of very thick books up to a certain height, I can get the phone up high.
Very technical.
How are you?
Well, I had a very rocky end to last year. It was really tough. Had a lot of losses. It really brought me up short. So I sort of crawled on my knees to Christmas, was held over Christmas by some very dear friends, and then came back home and just completely collapsed. So I'm kind of crawling out of that, really. So I'm okay, but really, grief has been my companion this last few months, which is not, I haven't really known grief like I now know it. Yeah, so it's been a thing. I don't know. What's your relationship with grief? Are you familiar with it? Is it?
A lot of the griefs that I've experienced have been far enough in my past that I know that if I were to re-encounter it, it would look very different. It would have a very different face. I think one thing I've been reckoning with this past year, I started therapy this time last year.
Oh.
And one thing I really wanted, one of my goals in therapy was to fix my anger. That was one of my goals going in, and come to find out, my therapist was like, well, anger isn't really one of those things you fix. It's more one of those things that you become better acquainted with and try to figure out what's happening underneath. And so I think if I were to re-encounter grief today, I think there'd be a lot more anger mixed up in it. I think I would have a better, more patient relationship with that anger part of it, I think. I would hope.
It's so interesting you bring up anger because I'm reading Soraya Chomely, I think I'm pronouncing her surname right, I hope so, whose book Rage Becomes Her is what I'm reading right now. And she has a follow-up which has just come, I think it's just coming out, it's just come out, called, I think it's called Why Can't We Have Everything We Want? Or Everything We Want. I'm sorry, Soraya, if you're listening to this, because I'm just getting to, I'm reading so many things. But anyway, it's basically about female rage, the one I'm reading. It's about female rage, and it's about the belonging of female rage. And, rage, let's say rage and anger are the same thing for the purposes of this. That was always my go-to. I've often been, I used to be told when I was younger that I was a really scary person. And I used to take quite a lot of pride in that. Now I realize, no. No, because, but I knew why I was like that. But it was definitely whenever I found myself in physically vulnerable or threatening situations, I'm fight. That's what I go into. I go into wild fight. But so, yeah, the rage that I lived with as a young person, young adult growing up, and then as a mother, and I really experienced it as a mother. And the regrets I have is when I really lost my shit at my little children at the time. That I really, they and I have all talked about it quite, and they're like, Mum, it's all right. We were annoying. You were tired. It's fine. But the bit that I'm really getting interested in, because I've done a lot of work around it, and yeah, I beneath rage and anger is often grief, but there is also pure, justified, righteous anger, and especially when I know you're not in menopause yet. Or at least I'm going to assume you're not in menopause yet. But when it happens, holy shit, the gloves come off in a really great way. Because I think if you reach the age of 50 and and you're a woman and you're not fucking angry,
Mm.
then I don't know what's happened there. I mean, you're a unicorn.
Well, or you're swallowing things so deep that it's going to come out some way. And I think
Right.
I would venture, I'm not a doctor, but I would venture to guess that a lot of the things that really plague women when they reach middle age and older age, a lot of it is probably from stuffing their emotions so much.
Down.
It's got to come out somewhere. It has to. Like, where is that
It
going to go
has to.
here? And I think that's been my revelation for myself is I grew up the opposite of probably your experience where I
Yeah.
family was all very, we didn't argue, we didn't fight. One of the rules in our house was no slamming doors. And so
Mm.
my parents are
Wow.
people I genuinely love my parents. I'm so grateful for them.
Hmm.
Loves our original conversation, by the way. She rewatched it with
Oh.
him, so I'm sure she'll watch
Oh.
it. Um, there
By
was,
your mum.
but I think one of the difficulties of growing up that way was that I never learned how to be angry and
Yeah.
how to not be scared of that emotion. And so as an adult, over the last 5 or so years, I've felt it come out of me in a way that has really scared me. And early last year was when I was like, I need to fix this. Like this is bad.
Mm.
Like I need to get rid of
Yeah.
it. And so I'm so grateful that I have a therapist who has been like, well,
Well,
let's not talk about getting rid of something that might actually be trying to protect you and might actually be trying to heal you in some way. Let's
yeah.
interrogate it a little bit. Like, where is that anger coming from? You know?
Yeah.
And so I'm very grateful.
Yeah.
Therapy has been a bit of an investment for us. We're not wealthy people, so it's been really useful. So
Yeah. I think the approach of anger and every other sensation and feeling we have as belonging, as the first position, let it belong. This has been my experience. And definitely I'm very much working with that around longing and around fear and around grief. Let it belong. And then the next bit, yeah, then start to investigate and understand. But there's no trying to get rid of. I have a family member who, in the run up to our mother's death, I met with them, and they were justifiably very angry with her. And but the phrase they constantly used was, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to be like this. I just did what is the best thing I can do then, which is just listen, and I didn't offer anything. But inside, I was thinking, but
yeah,
you do feel like this. So,
yeah,
so is that your first with therapy? Is that your very first step through the door this year?
yeah, yeah. This last year, yeah, I had
Okay,
I had an experience where an acquaintance of mine was studying to be a therapist, and I did like a few free sessions with them, and so that was years ago. And I thought, yeah,
sure.
I know how therapy works. That's why before
Yeah,
I kept thinking like, well, what's a therapist going to tell me that I don't already know?
yeah,
You know, I live in a therapist culture already. Like, I'm sure I know everything, and not
yeah,
you for sitting across from another person, and all all they're there for is to professionally listen to you. And so all eyes
yeah,
on you, and it's like, so why are we
yeah,
here? You know, and
yeah,
it's been a very interesting experience and a good one. But I mean, I think uh anyone who quickly just says like, "Oh, therapy's amazing," probably hasn't necessarily had therapy for very long, because you go through the ups and downs of like,
you sure do.
they're amazing, and then sometimes you walk away feeling worse than when you started, and it's all part of the ups and downs of the growth. Growth is
Yeah,
never.
and I no, and I think the idea that of being fixed. I mean, I do know some therapists who are very. They offer a results based therapy. They literally say, you go with, I want to stop smoking, and or I wanted to da, and they do 6 weeks, and they're very transparent in that it's results based, but it's not what I would call. therapy or psychotherapy, which is absolutely never ending. And also, I think for me anyway, the best therapist that I've encountered, and I have a great therapist who I've been seeing for years, it's about integrating outside of the therapy room. A bit like, actually, I was thinking about this the other day, the difference between, only being a good person on a Sunday in church and then, but not integrating everything into your normal life. And those two things, that they're equitable, aren't they? And in fact, actually, I wanted to ask you on that front, where does your faith meet the therapy or the need for therapy? Where's that movable line inside you?
I mean, I'm grateful to say that I found a therapist who actually is a Christian. And I would say if you're
Okay.
a Christian, you don't need to have a Christian therapist. I just want to be very upfront about that. Like, I think we can
Yeah.
get tied up in knots about the idea that, we have to find Christian therapy. And it's like, well, I think what you should do is find a good therapist. If they have a
Trained.
Christian, bonus. If they're not,
Right.
that's okay. Like, it's about finding a trained therapist first. Because my husband and I have both experienced the bad side of Christian therapy, where it is not therapy. It's just, I don't even want to use the word counseling because I think counseling can also be a very healthy thing, but
Yeah.
it's just, it's too vibes based where it's just like, well, what is God telling you to do? And it's like, okay, well, that's
Right now, God is not telling me anything. That's why I've come to you.
if I have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ and I believe deeply in God. That's not, that is not like, that's baseline. Like,
Right.
I am also a human being. And also, like, since we're doing this, like, Jesus Christ, if we believe what we say we believe, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ blessed our flesh. Like, the fact that we are human beings is actually a beautiful, sacred thing. And the fact that we are physical people and we have minds that work in a certain way and we have bodies that work in a certain way, that's a thing that has been blessed by Christ becoming a human person, right? So, if we believe that as Christians, then we should be the first in line to say, my brain needs help right now. Like, I need help as a human person. I am fallible and I need someone to show me another way of looking at something or a different perspective. And I think um, Christianity can get too tied up in knots about fear around that. That, like, the
Mm.
only perspective you should be looking at is this very narrow biblical idea that, like, well, if you just read the Bible and pray a lot, you'll feel better. And it's like, that's first of all patently untrue. Like, we know that's untrue.
Yeah.
And also, we are built for community. Like, part of
Mm.
I see my therapist as a part of my community. She's a person who lives relatively local to me, who has a profession, who is trained to do this. And she does a very good job. I've really appreciated her. She's very professional. She's very, like, where faith comes up, it is always in context of what she knows I need to talk about with my walk with faith. She never tries to insert
Mm.
her own Christian walk into mine. It's like, let's talk about you and let's talk about what that means for you. So, um, yeah, I I
So,
I I see no conflict between therapy and faith. I think the only conflict is in our own fear. Um,
okay. So, well, just to push that a little bit then, have there been moments in your life or members of your community who felt when they've hit a crisis and they've been trying to manage that crisis using faith as their structure and they're still in crisis, that they've felt, whether they've admitted it or not, that their faith has failed them and so they've gone to therapy? Is that an equation, false or not? Is that a sentence you've come across within your own heart or within your community?
Sure. Yeah. I think when people say that their faith has failed them, like, I mean, I'm never going to tell anyone how they should feel. So I'm not saying,
No.
I'm just riffing on the idea. I think
Yeah.
the idea of their faith failing them is mostly a failure of their faith community failing them. Because I know I've been in spaces where I've tried to admit, or I've heard people admit to difficult feelings or difficult questions or pain, like intense pain of some kind. And the response from extremely well-intentioned Christian people can be extremely damaging because what you hear is, oh, well, either it's like, I'm sorry you feel that way, which is already not
Mm.
that cool, or
Yeah.
it, oh, well, God doesn't give you more than you can handle, right? And it's like, okay, well, I do feel like I can't handle this right now. And
Yeah.
I think what it boils down to is a failure of, I mean, we're getting into more cultural questions here too, of like
Yeah. Yeah.
American Christianity versus like
Yeah,
English.
yeah, that's what I'm focusing on, I guess. And I'm focusing on it as an outsider. So forgive me for my kind of tourist binoculars, as the.
I think American Christianity is similar to American culture because unfortunately the church does tend to follow culture. It shouldn't, but it does.
Yeah.
Um, we we do not have a healthy relationship with with pain and with grief. We've lost all of our cultural touchstones around how to help people through things and how to just sit with people. Um, because sometimes that's all that's required is that you be there and you be a support. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to say the right thing. You don't need to be wise. You just need to sit there. I mean, I think we even sometimes run into traps when we say like, "Oh, I'll pray for you," or "Can we pray together?" And it's like, sure, but sometimes that's just to make you feel better as the person talking.
Mm,
Person, it's
yeah.
like doing something. I'm helping by offering this.
Yeah.
And well, not the sad fact, but just the truth is that we're more complex than that. And sometimes when
Mm.
you're in pain, you just want someone to sit with you in it and not act like they know everything. And so yeah, I think when people talk about their faith failing them when it comes to therapy, or that's why they turn to therapy, I think it's because of that. It's because they don't feel supported um by their faith community in a way that actually helps, like that actually feels like a surrounding rather than I'm going to church and I have to explain to everybody how I'm feeling right now and I don't want to do that. It's too exhausting to think about. I've been
Yeah,
there.
that's
I've been there.
right.
So,
That's so fascinating that, well, that potential for conflict of, so just to repeat back to you what you said, God never gives you, well, I don't know whether you feel this, but let's say somebody in your community has said God never gives you something you can't handle. And yet the truth of it is right now, you are not handling that. But one framework, I'm just trying to understand, is that actually, because if you do feel that God can't give you anything you can't handle there and you're not handling it, then a frame would be that your community is simply not allowing you the space to be without fixing.
yeah.
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 Okay.
That phrasing comes up a lot, that God never gives you more than you can handle. And I forget, I should know this. I forget if that's like comes from somewhere or if that's just something that we've kind of built over time. And to me, what's so sad about that sentiment is that again, I think it's American filter. We hear that and we go, yeah, bootstraps, like I can handle this because God would never give me something I can't handle. And where I think if we really think about that sentiment, what's actually being said there is he wouldn't give you something you can't handle when surrounded by people who can buoy you up and take you through it, right? And like
Yeah.
and continually point you to him. Um and again, I'm speaking very much from a position of that's what I believe. I know that not everyone in our shared audience believes that, but I'm
Sure, sure. I mean, I'm not a Christian, and I want to get onto all kinds of things around it because I'm always completely fascinated by when I meet anybody who has a clear and abiding faith, and I say clear not to imply that there aren't times when it's confusing and conflicting and difficult, and you wonder, but in just terms of that very basic, 1,000-yard identity. if I stand right back, and so that when I meet someone who has that, which I don't, I have never wanted to belong to anything. And, um, and I know, so I'm going to say this, this is quite a strident thing to say, but I'm going to say it. I can, sorry, I can never understand how a woman can belong to the Christian church. I just cannot get my head around. And yet, here I am in the room with a super bright, straight up, honest woman looking me in the eye, and she does. So I think, okay, so where's the bit that I don't understand? Where is that bit? Can you try and explain that to me?
Well, I mean, so much of the bit is like I'm not going to be naive and not say that like so much of the bit doesn't have anything to do with how I was raised, where I was raised, um, but also I was I'm very fortunate to have been born to parents who they were adult converts. So, they didn't grow up in the
Right,
church.
I remember now. Yeah.
And I attribute that to the reason why they were just very open with letting me figure it out. Like yes, we went to church as a family. Yes, we studied the Bible as a family. We did all these things. But at the same time, when I had questions, that didn't scare them. Or when I explored other things or wanted to learn about other faiths or wanted to understand things more, they didn't shut me down at all. Um, and like they let me keep what I believe to be a lot of the enchantment that's inherent in the Christian faith that has been lost over time because not to get too deep in the weeds here, but like because Protestantism just does not enjoy whimsy. Like it just
It's
there's
boring. Boring.
and I definitely grew up in the beige and rust orange, 90s church. That's what it
Yeah, I
was.
mean, you're a mystic. Is that okay for me to say? When I meet you in this space, and when you like, it screams mystic to me.
Well, we'll see a little bit about I joke about I call myself like an occasional mystic on my bio and stuff. I do worry
Yeah.
a bit about that label only because like it's sort of the kind of thing that you want other people to call you, but if you call yourself
Okay.
that, it's kind of like
Okay. 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 Sally, you're a mystic.
okay, well, I think, and that there's a root in there, right? Mystic, mystery.
Mm,
I think
yeah.
the moment we lose what Christian faith, the power of it, is when we walk away from the mystery of it. So much of the
Okay.
actual story of the gospel is deeply mysterious and deeply fascinating and exceedingly progressive considering the time period. And um, what we have made of it is not what it was. And especially in America. And I don't even want to go there. But like what we have transformed it into is unrecognizable.
Mm.
And I think um, what needs to happen is a revival of people reading the Bible again. Like actually,
The Old Testament.
yeah, I mean, read it. Like I think
Mm.
people trust what's been told to them, or they trust the behavior of Christians more than they've actually thought about what it says. And yes, there are things in the Bible that do require parsing. There are cultural things from that day and age that require parsing, that require understanding. But yeah, that I'm
So,
being kind of simplistic just because I know it's easier to explain in this kind of setting.
yeah. So,
Uh,
do you think, just in terms, because I think we have such common ground in terms of the mystery and the mysticism that you talk about. And I think that's why I feel like I can have these really open conversations with you because I feel like there's a baseline. Like if we went back to Hildegard or way, way back, do you know what I mean? You and I would be there doing exactly the same thing, right? But where we've parted ways, where we've split is, and I wonder if it's this, is that I'm just, whatever this sentence means, I'm not quite sure, but I'm the kind of person who does not like the structures on offer within which to put my faith. And you're the kind of person who does. Is that with that,
Yeah, I think
right?
that's a good
Is
way
that
to
fair
say it.
enough?
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, and I think also, again, I can't entirely separate the fact that I was raised in the church, and so the language that
Yeah.
I'm given, it's almost like a birth language. Like I was given a particular language in
Yeah.
which to talk about faith and in which to talk about my relationship with God. But like, trust and believe, in my church setting, I'm weird.
Oh, I
Like,
believe you. I believe you. So that's why I like you.
there's no church that like perfectly fits
No.
what I'm looking for. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I ultimately what I would come down to about all of this is that I I have a strong, strong principle around the idea that I believe that being a Christian does not mean that I have to be afraid. And so I can talk to people. There's nothing wrong with talking to people. There's nothing even wrong with agreeing with other people. There's nothing wrong with engaging in discourse and also like, and without the goal of like needing to convert anybody. That's not up to me. Like that's not my job. Um, I know we've transformed it into this idea that we need to make conversions. I don't believe that's true. Um, I believe that we're called to love and we're called to engage in our communities and we're called to be service oriented, charitable people in the context of our, like, if there's nothing else that you get from the life of Christ, it should be that, right? Um, Unfortunately, people do get other things from the life of Christ that don't belong there, but I don't believe fear has any place in the Christian life. And so, so much of the ways that we go astray
Mm,
based on fear, and they're
sure.
based on the idea that God is not enough. I really do believe that if Christians believed that God was enough the way they say that he is, we would not have half of the problems that that have Christianity as a label stamped on them throughout history. So many of the things that we've used Christianity for as a cudgel when it was never meant to be that way.
Yeah, I've always found it shocking slash hilarious that anybody would think God needed defending. I
Yeah.
mean, Christ, really, it's insane. So, and I recognize in you absolutely somebody who stands there with no defense because it's unrequired. You just are. It's what
Believe,
one of the many things I like about you.
yeah.
Yeah. So where, just to go but loop back to where we began, what can you identify in American culture where and why American culture's lost touch with around church behavior around dealing with grief and pain and that must either put away, deny, or fix. What's happened?
I think it's a couple things. I think one of the big ones is that is it a cop out if I say capitalism?
Well, I think so. It's a catch-all. Let's say
I
it.
think when the goal is to make money, that shifts everything, right? It shifts the way we see legacy. It shifts the way we see each other. Um, the fact that the funeral world is a business, I think,
Mm,
is a huge issue. As far as Christianity's role in that, again, I think when Christianity becomes a business, which it is in a lot
mm,
of places around here, when Christianity is indistinguishable from a business, you are going to lose any semblance of meaning that you might have had around life and death,
mm,
um, around the like the way we live and the way that we grieve with each other, because ritual loses its meaning when when money is involved.
When there's a
Ritual
price
is
tag.
supposed to be a container for meaning, right?
Mm.
Like when we do these things with each other, when we grieve with each other, when we celebrate birth with each other, when we do all these things, that's supposed to be a container for God to move, right? And we have transformed it into an opportunity for money to exchange hands. And Jesus famously turned over tables when people did that. So I think we have 100% lost the plot in every sense of the word. And I think where grief is concerned, it really is tied to money. I really do. I think there's
Yeah, yeah,
other
I think it's
other fingers in it, but I think
yeah,
I think money is a huge aspect of it.
it can be that
I
simple.
have to even admit that, but
Yeah, and how's your grief and anger right now in terms of
a
the
a dog's bone from the area because it's causing
oh sure.
noise complaints. Here we Anyway. So, go
How,
ahead.
your how's your grief and anger in terms of the political climate you're living in right now?
Yeah, rage doesn't even begin to cover it.
Rage.
Um, yeah, it's. I mean, it's easy to sit here and talk about how I believe fear has no place in the Christian life, but
Mm.
I mean, what other response is there?
Yeah, I don't know. What's your antidote then when it comes really up through you, whether it's fear or rage or grief for others or whatever it is? What do you do, Sally, in those moments?
I think what helps me is to remember that um, the people who truly believe in the gospel, the people who are Jesus followers, not Christian because Christian is an easy label to use. And I'd like to take back the term, but I don't think we're quite there yet.
Okay.
Because Christian is supposed to mean little Christ. That's what that means, actually.
Is
And
it? I never knew that.
me when people use the term Christian and then do something completely antithetical to anything Jesus said. Um, I in those moments, it helps to remind me that the gospel has always done its best work quietly and without any ties to empire. Um, and it's only ever been when Christianity is attached to government, even in the Bible. I mean,
Mm.
it meant God was very firm that he did not want the Israelites to have a king because he felt that that would distract them from his sovereignty. And it did. They begged him and he gave them a king. And then it all went to pot because we idolize
Because
power. We idolize people who we feel are telling us the right way to go. And so it helps me to remember that there are still people who are living out the Christian life. It doesn't look flashy. You're not going to see them on TV. You're not going to see them on a podcast. You're not going to see them, you know, um, it's largely invisible work, but it is the work of the gospel. Like that's the real work of the gospel is happening. And when I say the gospel as shorthand, I mean living out following Christ
the
and
teachings.
the teachings
Mm.
and bearing in mind that what we say we believe is that Jesus came to earth to live out God's grace for us.
Mm.
And grace looks like love and charity, and it looks like hospitality, and it looks like mutual care, and it looks like not expecting people to agree with us before we care for them.
Mm.
And that that is something that I want and I desperately pray for, and When you see, and you will, when you see messages coming out of what looks like a big pulpit, here in America, and again, you're going to hear it. You're going to hear people who are going to justify Christian nationalism using very carefully selected scriptures. Um, I want you to remember what I'm about to tell you, which is that there is
Okay.
justification for Christian nationalism in the Bible. Zero.
Yeah.
I don't care what scriptures they give you. I don't care how pretty they make it sound. There is zero justification for Christian nationalism in the Bible. And yeah,
Yeah, because for those of us who, like me anyway, who for whom any sort of organized religion just, I have a allergic reaction to it. Those people who are behaving in that way and calling themselves Christians, they're really doing nothing for their reputation of Christianity. Good Lord. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
again, um, just as I believe that God doesn't need defending, I'll also say that I think I trust and believe, even though it's very challenging to believe it, I trust and believe that God does also will continue to show his true face through the people who are truly doing his work in the world. And
Right.
that's not causing harm to people. That's,
Mm.
you'll see it in the way that people show up for each other. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I think, and again, I think this is where we meet. In all of my own practice, it absolutely meets everything you've just said about your practice meets my practice without any doubt. And also every way that I try and understand my practice within the greater sphere of atrocities and harms happening on a daily basis. This idea of radical acceptance, which doesn't make it right, it just says, well, it is. It is. So a bit like the radical acceptance of a very, very strong emotion. The first thing in my playbook is to say, well, it is, let it belong. And so then to apply that outwardly, terrible and hard, because to say an atrocity belongs implies that it's okay, which of course it doesn't. That's a false implication. But without radically accepting that it is, I feel one can't get to the next stage of investigation and whatever else one needs to go to, whether it's compassion or empathy or rage or activism or whatever the next stage is in that.
yeah.
And certainly over here in the UK, in my world, I'm glued to American politics. I have to say, absolutely. I don't read British politics at all. I'm just completely glued to it, and yeah, I watch it with an as it unfolds. I watch it. I watch that unfolding story and try and step back and say, okay, all things end. This will end too. Never has this behavior, in that sense, uh, persisted beyond its natural implosion.
Right.
I find these ways to try and comfort myself as witness, because it's not actually, nothing's happening to my life, but in terms of my grief as I watch.
Yeah.
And what about writing? How has it changed? Has it impacted your writing? Has it entered your writing? Do you use writing as a way, for instance, Ferris Island? And I wanted to get into that. I hadn't realized that Ferris Island is a place of your creation. Is
Mhm.
that right?
It is. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's
So
based. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
what would you call it a rewriting of a world that you can then be in? Is it, all right, okay, I'll put it this way, is it escape? Or is it a way of facing things within an environment that you can be more commanding within?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think there is some escape in Ferris Island.
Mm.
It's based on some places I really have visited. Around here in Western Washington, there are some beautiful islands, and they each have their own little culture and their own little, something going on, right? And they also,
Yeah.
Washington State also just has a very long history of weird stuff. Like we were one of the first UFO landings. I
Really?
believe the Men in Black kind of concept came from around here. Obviously, we have Sasquatch, we have all these things, right? And
Yeah, I didn't know that was localized to you. Okay. I love weird.
is kind of a national
I'm
northern
coming over.
idea. Sasquatch is really because
Yeah,
that's not even really the way you say it, but like that's a very based in the Salish tribe, and north like Tlingit and all those kind of along the
yeah,
northwest coast. Um,
yeah.
and so we have a lot of these really interesting kind of mysterious things that happen here, um, and so Ferris Island is very based on that. It's an island that I tried to make fit into the culture of Western Washington as much as possible and feel as real as possible, even though a lot of things happen there that couldn't happen. Um, I think there is some escape in that because there's definitely places and characters on the island that I genuinely enjoy visiting. And I know that sounds a little
Mm.
cheesy, but there are just
Yeah, that
times
makes sense to me.
I want to write about this thing happening in this place that I made that I can picture so vividly in my head, and it just feels nice to be there.
Mm.
But also, the island has kind of its own sense of justice, and I think that's part of it too, is that while there's a little bit of nuance because the island is a little bit self-serving, like it wants its own justice. It's not like a moral imperative necessarily. Um, for the most part, the good get good and the bad get bad. And I think that's something that we're all kind of craving right now. We're all
Oh,
craving a sense that if you act wickedly, you get
you'll be
wicked back.
caught. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so, yeah, I'm sure I mean, that has been I first came up with Ferris Island in like 2018, but it was still a very half formed idea. And Substack exploded and because I've had a reason
Mhm.
to write about it. So I've just had all stories set there. I have now one or no, two of my books are set there. Little shameless
Hold them
plug.
up. No, no, not shameless at all. I mean,
My
hold them
first
up. Yeah.
The Orchard Hounds
Okay.
is
Yeah.
there with John Ward's wonderful illustration on the front.
Beautiful.
And then Ivy and Ixos is a novella that's set on Ferris Island.
And
And
have you recently published those?
these were last year was chaos. I don't know what I was thinking, but I ended up publishing way too much.
Because when I was looking at your site, I was like, hell's bells, this girl's been putting out a lot of work.
You're doing
Right.
thinking, and then by the end, I look back and I was like,
I lost
what?
my mind.
My most recent one that I published is,
Okay.
which is not Ferris Island. These are more uncanny tales. Uh,
Beautiful. Great covers.
Thank you. I made that one.
Oh, did you? Really beautiful.
That's been one of my
Absolutely love that.
lists for myself is cover design. I've been having fun with that. One of the fun things about being self-published
It's
is
great. And while you're holding them up, where can people buy them? Just give them a proper plug. Where can people buy
all
them?
on Amazon. I would love
Yeah.
to be off of Amazon, but at the moment, that's what we've got. They're for
Yeah.
paperback and ebook, all on Amazon. Or if you'd rather not buy them on Amazon as an ebook, they're also available through Barnes and Noble, Kobo, all that good stuff. I also have an ebook story that I don't have a paperback version for called Imp, which is a novella. It's easy to read in a weekend. It's a little horror novella. So that one you can find on Amazon exclusively. So
Okay. But everyone can go to your Substack to Tailbones, and all the links are there, right? For
yeah,
those.
that I
Yeah.
just changed it so that the Tailbones homepage now has a little tile that says my books on it. So you can go straight
Yeah,
there.
I've
And
seen
that's
it.
just
Yeah, easy
so.
peasy. So Ferris Island. So from the moment it first entered your mind
Mm.
to now, has it now stood up and it's now telling you? I mean, in terms of that balance between the creator and the created, has that shifted in the last few years.
So last year was interesting. The other day I was actually kind of looking at my Substack journey in terms of themes every year, like what every year kind of represented. And last year I determined was the year of experimentation. Um,
Yeah.
I actually did write a lot outside of Ferris Island, and I was kind of playing around with different genres of stories and stuff and different styles. Um, but this year really does feel like I'm returning to the island again, and because I'm working on my first novel that'll be set in Ferris Island.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
a serial
Fantastic.
first on Substack, and
Oh,
I'm expanding it. And I have a wonderful cover designer that I'm working with. I'm so excited, and I'm very excited about that. But yeah, because of that, I'm kind of reacquainting myself with the island a little bit. And something I've always enjoyed about Ferris Island is because it's set in a place that feels real to me.
yeah.
I like to sometimes again, it sounds a little silly. I like to sit and daydream about like, oh, what are they doing right now on Ferris Island? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
there right now, you know? And
Yeah.
I love thinking about that in real time about um yeah, about like what these characters are doing when I'm not watching them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. The truth of it is, I'm going to say this, it does exist. I
Oh.
mean, you might have thought of it, but it exists now, even, and it probably existed before you thought of it, but you just happened to, do you know, and that's the bit about creation I'm also fascinated by is it always feels to me like anything that comes to me, like the novel I'm writing right now, she, the main character, she's been living all along. It's just that there was a moment in time when she and I happened to be crossing the room at exactly the same time. We were like, oh, and it's like, okay, so then we start to, and it feels to me that way with Ferris Island. It feels to me like it possesses you. Now it's got you. It's not letting you go. It's like it's beautiful.
A tulpa, is that what that is? Where the idea that like the amount of actually I think a tulpa you actually do have to kind of put some effort into it, but the idea that like your will creates a thing. Like there's this spirit and the amount of intention that you put into it makes it a reality, right? Um I forget what folklore that's from, but yeah,
Okay,
it
I'll look that up.
does feel like for me that's been the joy of working on Ferris Island has been ultimately it feels like I'm just having fun telling myself stories and I'm just glad other
Mm,
people like to listen to them too. Um,
mm.
because it just feels like, hey, let's hop the ferry and go
Yeah, let's go.
a little bit, see what's going on over
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. And do you dream? Do you have dreams about it when you're actually on the island?
I don't. And I'm so
You
frustrated.
don't.
I was a very vivid dreamer and I never remembered my dreams. And it just makes me so
Oh,
I know. I don't know. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe I've always just been a really deep
okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
but I do like
If you ever do, will you please write about it? Because it makes me. I don't know if you listen to the telepathy tapes. Have you heard of the telepathy tapes?
no.
No. Okay. They're a collection of interviews and recordings and investigation into telepathy with nonverbal autistic people. But it's developed more and more and more. And one of the things that a lot of the guests on the podcast talk about is that they meet on the hill, and the hill is the place where all the nonverbal people meet to talk and discuss and blah, blah. And when you talk about Faris Island, it feels like it exists in that same liminal space.
Wow. That's
Love
a
that.
cool thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
I think the closest I've ever gotten is that I've written, is it one or two? I can think of one. Um, what I called unfiction. Because I know there's two different terms. There's like autofiction and unfiction, and I think what I wrote was more unfiction, which is uh, I wrote myself into a piece of fiction set on Ferris Island. And it was from first person, but it was basically
Oh,
a
I love
very
that.
um it was more meditative than it was anything else. It's called The White Horse, I believe. It's you can find it on my Substack.
Okay,
Um
I'm gonna find it.
a
Wow.
winter solstice kind of meditation where I wrote as if I was renting a cabin on the lake in on Ferris Island and just having all these thoughts about um Christmas and the holidays and all these things. And yeah, it was really interesting to kind of put myself in that, you know, put myself on the island for a little bit.
Right. So that was the first time you did it? Have you done it? That was a one-off that you just thought,
I don't think I've written a second one. I keep thinking I did, but and maybe I
that's something to,
think I started one, but I don't think I finished it.
okay. So the experience of doing that, was it quite, did it spin your head? Was it quite, what was it like having suddenly putting yourself, love the idea of unfiction. It's so
Yeah,
great. I might have a walk on part in my new novel. I might actually do that.
right, do that. Yeah. One thing that was a little rule I set for myself was I wasn't going to encounter any of my characters on my little walk.
Okay.
There's a bit of a fine line between unfiction versus wish fulfillment. And like no shade to wish fulfillment. I'm sure like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
people to have that. I just knew that I didn't want to turn it into sort of a parody. I wanted to be in a place that I felt comfortable in. Um and I felt that
Someone's just said you don't want to get back to the future. That's exactly what I was thinking.
yeah.
There's a correlation there,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, my chat hasn't caught up. Hold on. But yeah, that's exactly it. I didn't want
Yeah.
to like um I'd get myself stuck somehow.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love, but you see, that's, isn't it amazing how immediately we all understand that? We all understand that if you give yourself a walk on part in, if you go to Ferris Island and you meet one of your characters, you're going to screw with something. We're not quite sure what, but something is going to go badly wrong. I mean, I just love that we've all got that immediate understanding of that.
Well,
Is
and
that
I don't know
wild?
if he's in the chat because again, my chat hasn't really caught up very. It's not really going in real time at the moment. But
Yeah.
so I do have one particular reader who is just a lore master. I don't know if it's just the way his brain works or what. And it's William Edwards, and he
Okay,
will
William Edwards, if you're here, show yourself.
he will
Yeah.
pull me up on it if I. And it's funny because he's never doing it to be malicious. I just think he's able to keep this stuff in his head, and so he'll go,
Wow.
wasn't that person the so and so? Didn't that person do this? And I'm like, oh, I'm so glad
Oh.
someone's paying attention to all.
Wow, really useful and really, I mean, kind of great. Like,
I can't pretend. I can't go like, oh no, you don't. That was somebody else. You don't remember that.
okay,
I
because he
clear out the lore. So
he's your continuity zealot,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I should hire him.
Wow.
My work.
Yeah, that's what I'm just thinking. You should hire him.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
be like, can you make sure? That's so wild.
yeah.
Um, the other thing I was looking at on your stat that I hadn't noted before was in skeletons was the deck, the various cards that you were
Oh,
showing up, right? Which I'll because you know what exactly what I'm talking about. Really beautiful. But one of the things I didn't know that you were happy to kind of use those because maybe this is just like a total unconscious bias. But when I see somebody using tarot and all that kind of stuff, it never really sits right next to somebody who's a practicing Christian. So, but for you, that there's no conflict there either, right? You're very happy to sit there with your various cards, and I love
oh,
that.
Eleanor, you could get me ranting forever about tarot. Um,
Oh,
I,
floor's yours. I love it.
the quick version is no, I see there's no conflict with using tarot. People who say that tarot is evil as a default don't entirely understand that like they are cards with pictures on them. I do not believe there's anything inherently mystical or magical about tarot cards. I have been fascinated by the symbolism and also when you look
Mm,
into a lot of the symbolism on tarot cards is actually quite biblical. And
mm,
it came from, you know, a Judeo-Christian faith tradition because
mm.
Pamela, who did the illustration, she was raised in that tradition. So a lot of what she pictured when she was putting these cards together was came from Christian faith.
Okay.
Um, my personal line in the sand is that I don't use them for fortune telling. That's just my only,
Yep.
because I personally don't believe in fortune telling. So I
Yep.
am not trying to get into anybody's space here with that. But I don't believe
Yep.
in predicting the future. What I do
Yep.
believe in is that you can use tarot to visualize and to think about and to meditate on certain concepts. That's really all they are. When you look at a tarot card, the symbolism just can help you to dig deeper into your own thoughts, um,
Mm,
as prompts for journaling. Um, they don't rule my life. There's nothing about, I don't do anything differently based on pulling tarot cards,
mm,
more just setting an intention for the day. And
mm.
um, yeah, I see no conflict. I know some Christians do, but I will say, not to plug a book other than my own, but if you are a Christian and you've ever been kind of curious about tarot cards and you don't really know like what to do, I am going to plug the Contemplative Tarot by
Mm.
Brittany.
Now, my friend Andrew Willey, who's a editor, he's a great friend. He's an editor. And he's a brilliant writing teacher. Just hold it up one more time. Let me see. He would love. He probably has it already. Andrew, if you're watching the Contemplative Tarot, I'm going to get that for your birthday. That's
The
great.
Brittany, I first encountered Brittany on Instagram, and I
Yeah.
just she's whip smart. She knows her theology. She's not just like a person who uses Christian faith as a label. Like she believes what she's talking about, and she also talks a lot about the symbolism of Christianity that can be found in tarot cards. And again, she doesn't believe in fortune telling, but she does a beautiful job of breaking down each card, give the
Okay.
questions for each card. You can see I have
Love
my
that.
in here.
Yeah.
uh, it's a great resource. And again, I would never push anyone to use something they're not comfortable using. This isn't about that.
Mm,
But
yeah.
I would just say that like it's nothing to be scared of. The only thing to be scared of would be if you use them in a way that frankly they don't need to be used. So um that's my spiel on
Yeah.
tarot.
Well, I mean, because my use of tarot, I'm with you on no fortune telling. That's my line in the sand. I never do that.
No.
What they
I think you're
do,
a failure when you do that too, because I just think
eh,
it's not yeah.
you're giving yourself over to a variable that can really screw with your head. I mean, why do it? It seems crazy. And also, it's unknown. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth in the next 5 minutes. So how can we anything know? You know.
Yeah. And I
So,
think
but
kind of giving yourself too much leeway to feel powerless in a situation. It's like, well, I
right.
have power over that. The cards told me it was going to happen. It's like, well, I'm going to let a dog out through the door. I'll be
Sure.
quick.
Sure. Sure.
Someone is not happy with sitting this long.
Oh dear. We're almost at our hour.
Hopefully, you don't get to see my messy room in the process. My apartment.
We all had a sneaky peek while you weren't there. Yeah, I don't use them for fortune telling at all. But what I do, I have a pack that I've had for, I don't know, at least 30 years, maybe more. And what I find they're really useful for is interrogating deeper where I am right now. And but the thing that I get the sense that somebody who's not either familiar with them or has a structural faith-based life and feels that there's something occult-ish about them. The bit where I can understand that is that they do every time I sit and I'll just sit with them and then I will just pull a card. The inherent power that I then experience of the collective, well, what you would call God,
Hmm.
the presence of that, and what I would call the great blue yonder or the collective knowing or all but that's exactly the same thing we were talking about is so in the room at that moment in time. It's so, or presence. It's so there. And I'm so reminded of the glory of that and my smallness and also my complete belonging within it as well. And I think that's what's so beautiful about the tarot. They're a doorway, or they're a language that opens a door to a great awareness of knowing.
Yeah.
And I love them.
The thing I find happens a lot is I hear Christians hook when they talk about tarot, they talk about it in the same breath as a Ouija board. And
Right.
something that I think is interesting about that is like a Ouija board is essentially a telephone. There's no reason to use a telephone, like ignoring cell phones. There's no reason to use a telephone for anything other than to call somebody. And so, yeah, I don't use Ouija boards because I don't want to talk to whoever's on the other side of the telephone. Like that's not I'm not interested. Um Whereas tarot I think is such an interesting, it's weird to hook those two together because I think it's not something that you have to use to I don't use it to talk to anybody. I use it the way I would use a book.
Yeah.
It's illustrations. It's something to look at. It's something to think about. And it whenever I sit with them, because I do that as well. My intention is always like, what? How would I best use the intention on this card to accomplish God's glory today? Because that's
Mhm.
where my mind goes.
Mm.
And how would I use this to feel healthier so that I can show up in the world the way that He wants me to show up? And that's me. And again, I'm not saying anyone needs to use them. I'm not saying, I know that there's a really heavy push these days for to kind of how do I say this? Because witchy aesthetics have become quite popular. I think that there's a fear in Christian circles that especially young women, I'm just going to say, especially young women are following a trend. And we always have to be careful about that. And I didn't talk about tarot for the longest time. I was ashamed. I would keep them in a drawer. I wouldn't
Mm.
bring it up with anybody. I wouldn't say anything because I was so afraid that my Christian community would think less of me or think differently of me that I even touched them. And I wasn't necessarily raised in a hyper conservative or hyper like aware community like that, but it's still there. Like it's still in the messaging, right? Um, but again, for me, it's not about fear. I'm not afraid of these cards. And I say that because I'm also deeply involved in scripture.
Yeah.
uh, I I I study my Bible, and I'm not
Mm.
trying to brag by saying that. I'm just saying that like where anywhere the tarot disagrees with the Bible wins.
Okay.
So I don't have any fear around looking at a tarot card and looking for what could be God's intention in my life through that.
How could the tarot disagree with the Bible? How would that show up? Uh,
I think when I say that, what I mean is if anything that I am getting from a tarot card is all about me, my ambition, my desires, my pride, my um yeah, me, right? If I'm the focus in anything other than just kind of more introspective. There's a difference between being self-centered and being introspective, right?
mhm.
I think introspection is really powerful, and we need to think carefully about why we do the things we do, why we believe the things we do. But there's a place where that ends, and you can't be self-centered anymore, and you have to look out, and you have to act outside of yourself. And any place where tarot keeps me in the box of me, my power, my control, my anything. That's where it wouldn't And that's my own fault. I'm not saying that's not even the tarot card's fault. Because frankly, again, they're pictures on cards,
You're
right?
right. I was going to say,
Down to how you're looking at it. And if the thing that's in my mind is me, then
right.
might not be a good day for me to be pulling tarot cards, to be frank.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
good day
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's really easy to look at a tarot card and just think about me.
Yeah.
Uh, and so the only time when it would be valuable is when I'm asking God to show me what is the point of this image in how I show up in the world today.
Yeah.
It's not, shouldn't be about, but
Yeah. And I can meet that with my own experience when I've been in particularly limiting frames of mind and really suffering with attachment, suffering small me. And when I've sat with tarot in those occasions, I always get, is it the 9 or the 7 of swords? It's the one with the woman just pinned nightmare with her own suffering. And there was a whole, because of I had a very tough end of 25 and into this. And couple of, I must have pulled it 3 or 4. And the last time I pulled it, I was like, for fuck's sake, you know. But then I thought, okay, let's really look. Let's really look. Let's really look. Okay. I was pinned by my small sufferings. I mean, like, and it took me 4 goes to understand
yeah,
the wisdom of the card in terms of reflecting where I am right now.
yeah.
I hadn't understood it. So
I will say, I know it's not a good day for me to pull a card when I pull one and my immediate thought is like, oh, I didn't want that one.
yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah, that's what you got. Think about the one you got. Because there's certain ones I just get so annoyed when I pull it because it's like, oh, I don't,
Oh, I'm gonna pull another one. Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to pull it underneath
Yeah.
and put it.
I didn't like that one. I don't do it
Yeah.
again. So
Yeah.
funny.
Around the cards is sometimes more revealing than the card itself.
Oh,
It's
totally. And I think the tarot begins on your way to sit down to the cards before you've even touched the cards.
like that. Did you just come up with that? That's very good.
I just came up with that. We're over time, which is annoying. But I just one more question I can ask you. So, but to do with tarot again, but you also use it as story prompt, which I find really interesting. And my friend Andrew Willie also does this when he teaches. So, and is that something just to speak to the writers who are watching this? You write about that, and do you want to just speak to that in terms of helping if that's something that's helpful to people, how to get them out of ruts and so on?
Yeah, I will say, I personally only use tarot for introspection. I try to put boundaries around certain things because it can get muddy if I'm using the same cards for storytelling that I would use for myself, it can get a little
Yeah,
muddy. So I try
right.
not to do that too much. But I have a lot of cards. I have
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
Um, I'm not as bad as some people, but I do have too many cards. Um,
I'm
I
going to
think
find them and list them for people because they're on your site. Hang on, where are
so.
we?
It's well, and that's just my storytelling ones. I didn't
Okay.
talk.
Oh, you got more than that. Okay. You got the moth storytelling, storymatic family, writing dice, the writer's oracle, Waracle.
Yeah.
Slightly took issue with the title of that.
Every every deck has its pros and cons, and not to plug Scatterbones, but you can go over to I have a little my newsletter where I just throw whatever.
Yeah, we're actively plugging Scatterbones here, everyone listening. So go
And
over to Scatterbones.
I think that was my first article on there was just a list
Yeah,
of a list of different storytelling card decks.
yeah.
The way it works for my brain might not be the way it works for everybody. I will say though that there are some times when there's nothing that beats randomization. Like
Mm,
pulling something that you can't predict. Um, I am an outliner. I'm a planner. I am somebody who, before I embark on a story, I like to have a certain skeleton around it. However, there are just sometimes when you're stuck on something and you go, I just need to randomize this. I need
hmm.
something else to tell me or at least a different way of looking at this, right?
Yeah.
Um, I will say I have had the best luck. And if you're just looking for like a start of like a story deck that might do you best, really can't beat the Storymatic. It's widely available. I was skeptical of it before I got it, but honestly, it's the one I reach for the most because it's just so, it's got so many weird cards that you just wouldn't think of. So when you pull it, it's like, I didn't even, that would never have popped into my brain. I know, and it,
Okay, nice.
yeah. So that I would say like plug in the Storymatic. Um, I think it's great. Also, the one that I've pulled for friends before when they've asked me like, "Hey, can you just like pull some prompts for me?" is the Moth storytelling deck, which I do have right here.
Yeah. Okay,
Storymatic is,
yeah, hold it up.
but this is the Moth Game of Story.
Nice.
It's supposed to
Beautiful.
be for personal storytelling, like for because the Moth
Yeah.
is a
The
radio
moth is a
show.
story. Yeah, yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, it's great. Like it's just it
Great.
works so well for fiction because what you get is a theme at the top with a little
And then
explanation what they're
glasses
talking about.
on.
It says
Okay, brilliant. Look at that. Busted. Yeah.
and then on the back some other kind of leading you in.
Brilliant.
I'm sorry, it's not really focusing, but
Yeah, yeah. That's good. That's good. There we go. That's it. Great. Okay, this is top tips.
yeah. So the Moth, it's great. It really does work for like if you just need a theme to get you started.
Yeah.
It's great. Um, but yeah, I think that again, it doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
Uh, it can for me. I need to know that I can randomize my um yeah to randomize things.
Yeah. Well,
I
what
saw
struck me was
mean by the Moth being a storyteller. So the Moth is a radio show. It was on NPR. I don't know if it still is, but it
they
was
do
on.
they do live shows. They do live shows all over the world now. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they do themed storytelling, and so that's where that deck came from. Was they took that concept and made it into a card deck, and it works great.
Yeah, and if you go, whoever was asking that, if you go onto the Moth website, you can also you can apply to go and take part in their shows. You can put in a Moth story that's only 1 minute long. There's loads of stuff that you can get involved with. The storytelling, the kind of parameters of that is that you need to stand up on stage without any prompts. You can't read it. You just have to deliver it, and it can't be more than 3 minutes. It's very, very short. Maybe it's 15 minutes, but it's short. It's whatever it is.
If you go on any podcast platform, they have the Moth just as a
They have the Moth as a podcast as well. They do loads of stuff.
it's really fun to listen to. They're only each episode's only like 15 20 minutes long because
That's right. Yeah, they're super short and they're really great to listen to. And it's interesting because reading a story is one thing, but delivering a story it's a totally different rhythm. And, it's almost, it kind of forces a different structure to a story, I find.
and
So they're great.
a lot of these stories are more like personal. They're not
Yeah.
fiction. They're
No, they're
personal.
personal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
very much I. And I've just noticed that Erica, I'm going to let you go any minute now, Sally, but I've just noticed that Erica Drayton is on with us.
Wow.
um, I know you're taking part. Erica is doing a Top in Fiction live festival coming up. And I
Yes.
think it's starting 16th of January. So do you want to just plug that for Erica now that we're on?
The Top in Fiction Summit is starting. There's like an opening ceremony. I'm looking at my calendar. Sorry. There's an opening ceremony on the 15th, which is a Thursday next week. And it's running all the way through to Monday, I think, this whole thing. And it's basically just every half hour, you get a new Substack fiction writer reading their work live. And yours truly is the first one on Friday. So
Ooh.
8 a.m. on the 16th. Please show
8
up.
a.m.
All by
Pacific. And how can people find it? So do they subscribe to you? Do they just subscribe to Erica? How will they
to go
find
to
it?
because Erica, you can go to Erica Drayton. So you see her in the chat. You can go to Erica's site. She also has a link to Top in Fiction,
Right.
and I think subscribing to them is probably the best option because that way you'll be
Yeah, I
able
think
to.
that's the best option. Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, 48 readers. She said she's got 48 readers
Great.
all across the days. It'll be really fun. So,
It's really
uh,
great.
yeah, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I will tune in to hear your story on the 16th. Is it 8 a.m. Pacific?
8 a.m. Pacific time. Yes.
I will figure that out.
I will have my coffee. We'll be ready.
And you will go. Okay. Okay, Sally, Such a joy. Great to see you.
I love
Loads of love. Yeah, I love you too. Okay. All right. Well, I'll see you in the stacks. Keep doing what you're doing. Sally does, for everyone listening, Sally does a gazillion different things on tailbones, on wild root parables, and on skeletons. And there's also a whole lot of, what's it called? Is it called skeletons?
it's okay. Skeletons
Yeah.
is perfect.
Okay. And also is available for editing, for a whole kind of book stuff, teach it the whole thing. So go find her. She's brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Loads of love. I'll see you soon. See you in the stacks.
Bye.